All right, so I want to talk to you today about, sorry, let me put this in slideshow view and take a sip of water. I'm going to talk to you guys today about assessment and placement, because when we get new students, we need to know what level to place them in. And sometimes we have students who are entering midterm. So for example, one of our teachers talked to me this week and said that they are on lesson 13 right now, and they have a new student who wants to join, but who has missed out on the first 13 lessons. And she wanted to know if it would be okay for that person to join. And I said, well, it all depends how they do on the assessment. So ideally, in a perfect situation, we will have students of the same level in the same class. And when we talk about levels, in general terms, we talk about beginning, intermediate, and advanced students. But we have some technical language we can use that helps us to be a little bit more specific, because what I think is beginning might be something different than what you think is beginning in your mind. And so we use a standard. They're called CEFR levels. So this is a worldwide standard that was set up by the council, a European council, and it's used for all languages, not just English. And I'll make this chart a little bit bigger here so you can see it. But basically, they divide it into 6 different levels of language proficiency. So A1 is absolute beginners, and C2 is a native speaker or almost a native speaker. That's the highest level. And with our Light of the World materials, we use these European Council levels for our levels. So many of you are already using our A1 level, which is beginning. And with a beginning level, these descriptors tell us what students should be able to do at each level. So for example, at the A1 level, students can recognize familiar words and very basic phrases about themselves, their family, their surroundings, when people speak slowly and clearly. So that's our goal. By the end of the A1 level, they should be able to do that. Okay, and that's the listening. So in general, we talk about 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And so students may be in a different place in those different skills. For example, for me in Spanish, I'm very good at listening to Spanish, and I'm very good at reading Spanish. So I'm probably at a pretty high level, maybe a C1 level when it comes to listening and to reading Spanish. However, when it comes to writing Spanish, I'm really terrible. I'm probably at like an A2 level or an A1 level. And the same with my speaking, it's not nearly as high as my listening. So you'll probably find with your students too, there's going to be some things that they are good at, some things they are not as good at. Some other descriptors. So for writing at the A1 level, I can write a short, simple postcard. I can fill in forms with personal details. entering my name, nationality, and address on a registration form. So that's what we would expect at the A1 level. If we jump up to the B2 level, you can see for the writing, they would be able to do much more. They can write clear, detailed text on a wide range of subjects. They can write essays and reports, giving reasons in support or against a particular point of view, letters highlighting personal experiences. Okay. And then if you go up to the C2 level, they're going to be able to do even more, writing clear, smooth flowing text in an appropriate style, complex letters, reports, or articles, summaries and review of professional or literary work. So that's pretty high. That's something you would do at the university level in English. And so there you can see there's a pretty wide range between being able to fill out a registration form to being able to write, literary reviews. And so for all of these things, listening, speaking, writing, it's going to vary from level to level. Does that make sense?
Yes, but what do you do in a lesson with those varying with like students and also even just the person? Because I believe the student from Ukraine is high on reading and writing, but low in speaking.
Right. And so we're going to have another webinar on how to manage multi-level classes. Okay. And how to deal with those levels, but that's a great question, and it is complex. So yeah, thank you, Tanya. So yeah, stay tuned for our webinar on reaching multi-levels.
Okay, thank
you. So basically, if you have a new student and you want to see what level they are going to be at, you're going to give them an assessment. And there are, right now for the Light of the World materials, we only have a beginning level assessment. And so with that assessment, you'll be able to see if they should be in level A1 or A2. And every 7th lesson, and also the final lesson 50 of the Light of the World materials, includes an assessment test. And so if you've got a student and you think they are a beginner, but you don't know if they're a high beginner or a low beginner, you can give them the Light of the World test number 50, and that is going to give you an idea if they should be in A1 or A2. And so those assessments are found right in the lesson. So if you go to lesson 50, near the end of the lesson, it'll have the link to take the final test. So there is an online test that they can take. This is just multiple choice, and it measures their, basically their reading comprehension and grammar comprehension. And then there's also a listening, speaking, and writing test where the teacher, and you'll see this in the teacher's notes, the teacher asks the students 7 questions to see if they can answer them correctly. And then the teacher has them write 3 sentences about a picture. And there is a rubric included in the lesson that shows you how to score that. And so when you ask these 7 questions, what is your address? they can either get 3 points if they answer it correctly, one point if it's correct but not really clear or complete. And if they can't answer it at all, or they give the wrong answer, then they get 0 points. And so this is a pretty simple rubric you can use to score them. And usually we say if they score at least 80%, then they're ready to go on to the next level. So if you test someone with this A1 lesson 50 test and they get 80%, they're ready to go on to the A2 level. If they get less than 80%, we would start them at the A1 level. Okay. Now, because our Light of the World lessons are not complete yet, we plan to go up to the higher levels, but right now we only have the beginning, and we're working on the high beginning right now. We don't have the tests for all levels, but here's a pretty good test you can use. It's at a free test at efset.org. And this assessment, you can give them just takes 15 minutes. It's just a multiple choice test. They can take that and get their results, and that will tell you which CEFR levels they're at. I only recommend this for intermediate students or higher. And the reason is, for beginners, it can be pretty discouraging because they're not going to be able to answer anything on it. And so with beginners, you're better off using the Light of the World test, because they will be able to probably answer some of the questions, and you get a better idea of what they can and can't do. With this one, the questions are pretty tough from the beginning, and they're probably just going to go, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Which also gives you their level, right? It tells you they're a beginner, so that's fine. But sometimes it can be discouraging. And that's another thing I wanted to mention, is that we don't want to discourage our students. So when in doubt, place them in an easier class or start using easier materials with them. And then you can always go up to a higher level. And then it feels like an accomplishment and a reward when you say, oh, this is too easy for you. We're going to move you on to something more challenging, rather than the reverse. If you start with something that is too hard for them, and then you have to put them down into the lower class, they feel like they've been demoted, that they've failed. So always start low and push them up higher. You can, and we are not only teaching English, but we are also teaching the Bible. And remember that the Word of God reaches all levels. So, a 5-year-old child who hears a Bible story is going to get something very different out of it than a theologian with a PhD reading the same story. But God touches our hearts through whatever level we're at. And so I think even if a student you might think that, oh, this class is too easy for them given their level, they still are going to be learning about God at a level that's appropriate for their heart. So as I said, ideally, we would put people in a level class with other students who are at the same level. It does not always work that way. Sometimes we have a mother and child who are in the same class together because she doesn't have childcare, and so they're going to study together. Sometimes we have groups of people who drive together for transportation. And so the higher level and the lower level people have to come to the same class at the same time. And we'll talk more in our multi-level webinar about how to handle that. But one thing we can do always is think about multiplying yourself so that you can offer more levels. So you should always be training up other teachers to assist you in your ministry. You won't have a shortage of students. We generally find the opposite is true, that we get more students than we can handle. And so if you have someone who is acting as your teaching assistant, as they become more confident, you'll be able to move them into starting their own class, and then you'll be able to divide a little bit more and have the lower students and the higher students in different groups. All right, so any questions that you guys have about assessment and placement? All right, well, oh, and Angie has joined us. Hi, Angie.
Sorry for being late.
That's okay. So I'm just gonna stop recording at this point.
I have a
And
quick question.
oh, go ahead, Tanya.
A quick question. So it looks like the one assessment can be done before the first meeting, or I mean after you kind of met them, but it can be done before on their own time, and then the other listening, writing, and speaking one is done in person.
Yes, exactly. So the online test, if they have access to do a Google form, they can do that on their own and just let you know what their score is or send you their score. But the writing and speaking one, you're going to assess them in person.
Okay, so they have to send the score to me or share that email for the one on.
Yes, for the online one, yes. You can also make a copy of the test.
Yeah.
And if it's your own copy that you send them, then the results will go to you as the owner of the test.
Okay. But the other one that's for the intermediate and high level, that definitely they just give you the score of that. That doesn't
Yes.
Okay. But
Right.
the light of the world can buy that copy. Okay.
Right. Yeah, and with either one, you can also do it alongside with them, especially if they don't have great computer skills and aren't sure how to do an online test. You
Okay.
can certainly have them do it on your computer if you are with them and help them out with that.